Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Holistic Human Optimization Show. I am your host, Ronnie Landis, and today I'm joined by a good friend and colleague, Steven Prussack of Juice Guru Radio, and I am very excited about this episode and been looking forward to it for quite some time. Steven is a very interesting character. I was on his show a little while ago, and we had a great discussion about aging and nutrition and really about how to transform our life from the inside out, which is what I'm all about, and it's definitely what he's all about as well. And he has some interesting angles and insights on the whole process of what we call anti-aging, but just graceful aging, and how to really enjoy our life the more dances around the sun we do. And to just give a little bit of an intro, I wanted to just read a little piece off his website, which is the Age Boss Manifesto, which I found really inspiring and really cool. So I just wanted to read that off as I intro Steven into the show. And the Age Boss Manifesto basically says, getting older does not mean growing old. Age is just a number. Vitality is a way of life. Before you can health up, you need to wake up. Life begins when you listen to your true intuition. It is divine. Follow the science, not the gurus. Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. Nourish your body, nourish your soul. Greatness comes from simplicity, goodness, and truth. Well, what a powerful manifesto for all of us. And with that, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ronnie. Thanks for having me. I love that you read that because it came from the heart, and it still gives me, chills to hear it. So I know it was on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And, I've just been looking forward to this. And, the best place to start off is telling us a little bit about your personal story, because I know that where you are in you're 49 now, right?
Right.
Okay, that's amazing. And I know where you are in your personal journey is not where you've always been. And I'm always inspired about the personal stories of transformation that people go through, because it's so easy to get a snapshot of somebody where they are. And a lot of people feel like maybe they're in a place of disenfranchisement in their life, or a particular health situation that they don't see the way out of. They don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they're not sure that it's possible for them. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about your story. Where were you when you really got the insight that you need to change some things in your life? And where did that start for you?
Well, the light came, right, or the download. Lucky for me, it didn't come because of a heart attack or something like that. It came when I got out of college. I was overweight, out of shape. I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without, gasping for breath. And I thought, here I am, 22 years old. Why do I feel like an old man? Why was it that I was working on Wall Street and I couldn't sit behind my desk without my trunk wanting me to slump? Why was it that I thought I was healthy? Why didn't I know eating McDonald's every day wasn't the way to go? Why was I living in a fraternity house and drinking alcohol all the time and living a life that, was cool and the way to be? And it paid its toll. And so when the light went off and I realized, and I looked in the mirror and took a look and realized, wow, what do I look like now? How am I going to look in 10 years when I'm in my 30s? Is this, am I going to be alive at that point? I'd lost my mom when I was 4 to cancer. I saw in my family that, people going down the wrong track. So I took health into my own hands. I didn't hear it from the doctor. I didn't hear it from, false information, even though my dad was a pharmacist and they were telling me, medications are the way to go. I was even going to become a pharmacist. Thankfully, I found the right path and realized that getting healthy was worth everything, because, it was juicing that turned it around for me. And it's why I became full circle and I educate about juicing, because it was the juice man back then. He was on those late night infomercials. I was depressed. I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. And I didn't know why, I didn't know why I was so depressed. And those infomercials would come on and I saw this bushy eyebrow guy talking about juicing, and that planted a seed. And then I came across his book and I decided I'm going to try juicing and making a juice and just seeing what this is like and thinking, I mean, I didn't eat any vegetables back then. I remember a friend from college was like, Steve, do you ever eat a vegetable? My friend Veronica, if she's even watching. And it was like, no, I didn't. And, my dad didn't, still doesn't. And, and it's coming full circle for him. And I want to share about that in a little bit. But, I was raised that way. I thought that was the way to go. But here I was putting juice into my body and things started to change. I started to get more energy. I started to want to go to the gym. But I was still smoking. My dad would say, you're getting healthy, but you still smoke after the gym. And I still wasn't connecting the dots. And even he saw that, there was a mismatch. And it was during my first juice cleanse that nicotine came out the tips of my fingers. It was a black soot, and I smelled it. It smelled like nicotine. We didn't have iPhones. I didn't take pictures in those days, but here it was. And I realized, wow, if I got out of the way and flood my body with nutrients through healthy juicing, my body is taking care of itself. And that was a miracle to me. That was something I wasn't reading in books. I was experiencing it. And I knew intuitively that if I didn't get that out of my body, I probably would have died a few years, whatever it was. Whatever this was in my body, I was getting it out, and it's better out than in. It ignited a revolution in my body, right? It starts within, and it set me on a path of wanting to eat healthier, wanting to do the best for my body. And really, once I dialed in on that and learned, and the wall was up, or the veil was uncovered, I wanted to spread this message with everyone, my family and friends. And now all these years later, and back then I was in my mid-20s, I mean, they thought I was crazy. And now that I'm approaching 50, my cousin sent me a text. He's like, you were right all those years ago. Like, the people that thought I was crazy realized, wow, he was right. And what are you doing? And, how do we get off medication? Why am I on Viagra? Why do I need another surgery? Why am I obese? And they're coming to me now. And it's funny, Ronnie, you stay the path, you hope, you live the passion, you want to inspire, you wonder why you're not reaching those you love the most. Why aren't I reaching the ones that are closest to me? And we see it's like little lights in a crowd. Like, some of them spark up and they listen. And I see some of my friends coming forward now, people that I knew in middle school that we were partying together with are now in my programs. And that warms my heart. But when I see things like that happen this past weekend, my dad got a heart attack, that's what really ignited my passion even more, because now I see my dad, who we all thought was so healthy, and he thought I was crazy and always said to me, I would rather eat what I want and live a few less years than, give up and sacrifice. And we all know the inner circle, that when we eat this way and we reignite our body and our taste buds, it actually tastes amazing. So he never got that secret, but now there's an opening. And so my wife and I are going to fly out to Florida. We're getting him a juicer. We're going to help him to try to make some changes and hope that this is the answer, that, that because of 100% blood clog in his heart, we don't want to lose him. We love you, Dad. We love you, Mom. I love my family. And so do you. And it's why we do the work we do. We changed my wife's parents. They're juicing every day. Her mom's blood work came back, and for the first time in her life, she doesn't have any health issues. We're inspiring a lot of people, Ronnie, but when it comes down to it, we want to start within, with ourselves, with those closest to us. And the frustrating part is it doesn't always fall on the ears that we really want it to, and we just can only keep living it and hoping it reaches them. I don't know if you've experienced the same, but I'm really passionate about my show. I feel like crying when I tell you that. It's not easy to share this.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely relate. I just saw my mom recently. She was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and and she has heart issues, and she's had back surgery. She just had a metal crane put in her neck because of a structural misalignment, and it's been a challenge for me to watch the whole thing because I definitely relate to this idea of a prophet is never a prophet in their own town, and it's kind of like you have to actually migrate outside of your familiar terrain and outside of the family unit, outside of the friends and the social circles that we became accustomed to. And it's kind of an interesting paradox, and more than not, it's a theme that I see happening more than not. Sometimes the people closest to you, they really get lit up and they see what you're doing and they get on board right away, but they're usually not the early adopters, are they? They're usually the people that have known you, especially our parents and our family. They have known us to be a certain way most of our life. And I can think about my parents. They've known me since I was a little tiny thing, right? So they have a built-in assumption and a built-in bias about who I've been to them. And so when I started to change and I started to change course and take my health seriously and got onto living food and totally was like, I'm getting off all the crap, all the junk, all the animal foods, all the processed food, all that stuff. For me, it was interesting because my mom, she supported me because she just knew I was going to do what I wanted to do. She just knew, like, okay, well, he's committed to whatever it is that he gets into. So, we're going to support him, but we're certainly not going to do that crazy thing. We're certainly not going to get on board. And she admitted that, I'm sure that it's a lot healthier, but it just wasn't where they were at. And so I've had to watch the progressive decline that they've gone through. And I kind of felt inside myself, even recently, 10 years into this, I still feel this sense of almost powerlessness with all my knowledge and all my insight into how to heal. It's an interesting road to walk, because I realize that she's also on her path, they're on their path, and that I'm here for support. But every time that I've tried to go in and try to change things up or help out, it just had not, it had not, I guess, been adopted the way that I would have hoped or believed it would, where someone that knows me based on social media or the work that I do, they don't have those built-in biases. They don't have that familiarity with who I used to be. So they're just like, yeah, awesome. We get it. We want to soak up your knowledge or your insight. Please teach us. And it's just an interesting paradox when it comes to our family, right?
It's amazing. I saw James Colquhoun from Food Matters. We were talking about this over the weekend at Natural Products Expo West. And he had the same thing with his parents, but his wife's parents, they got in on it, and they got in on the health. So it's interesting to see the light bulbs go off. So, going back to your first question, like, when did the light go off for you? When did you realize? And we can only hope that, people are watching this, friends of ours, community of ours all over the world that are going to share this with everyone else. We're on my Facebook outreach. We're on yours. Hopefully they'll share it and more people will wake up, because the truth is there. And when people hear the truth, it resonates on a deep level. Well, you get the goosebumps and it just makes sense. We're not talking about BS, fads, or anything else. And Natural Products Expo West was full of that, game changers and butter in your coffee and all that other BS that we know doesn't work. We base what we do on science. We have Dr. Gabriel Cousins, Dr. Joel Furman sits at the top of our advisory board for Juice Guru. We work with the doctors that know this is working. We don't have medical degrees. I have a degree in occupational therapy. I had a master's degree, and that profession began its roots in holistic health and wellness. It's gotten off track because of other interests, getting people on medications and things like that. So we're going against the grain of what people know and believe to be true. But we know from our example and the thousands of people that we work with that what we're saying does work. And if there's something that resonates with you, to change might be hard, but it's worth it. If you want to live a long life, an energetic life, if you want to turn back the clock on aging, if you want to be happy because we live in a country that's depressed, then we're saying flood your body with a nice juice in the morning. That's a great way to start. An organic juice first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, because we're breaking our fast. It's breakfast. It came from breaking the fast. Every night we're doing a fast. No matter no matter how crazy you think it is to do a fast, you do one every night when you go to sleep for 8 hours. Your body is regenerating, rejuvenating on a molecular level, all of its cells, feeding itself. What do? We wake up and we flood it with cereals and breads and pancakes and eggs and bacon and things like that. And we just don't know. We offset all the good we did. We do more damage than good. And so we found by having the juice a day, that's what our latest book is about, the juice a day on an empty stomach, that it continues your detox from the night before. It brings you into the day where your nutrient needs are met, and 9% of Americans, they're not even meeting their daily recommendation on fruits and vegetables. Here you're getting it right first thing in the morning, right from your juicer. All barriers are gone, cold pressed, fresh from the juicer, because all the enzymes, nutrients are intact. It's easy to clean. The juicers today, 5 to 10 minutes. There's no reason to not give this a try. And then we find, wow, we're not hungry. We don't really need a meal till lunch. And then the other secret is we start to crave more of those fruits and vegetables. So no matter what your diet is, it doesn't even matter. Just start with the juice a day. It's a great way. It's what we train. and it's going to lead to a real transformation. And that's what this is all about. We're hoping to spark a juice revolution. We want to get all our friends and family and your friends and family and their friends and family off the medications, show them that you can take accountability. The real health insurance is at your control, not your doctor, not your misinformation from advertisements that we're bombarded with everywhere, but take health into your own hands. Health is wealth, like you said, and that's the revolution that we're trying to cause.
Yes, I love it. And it's really about creating a health assurance policy instead of a health insurance policy that we become accustomed to. And I love this message because for me, juicing was what changed everything around for me. When I got introduced to the concept of vegetarianism and plant-based lifestyle and then raw food through David Wolf and Gabriel Cousins, that, I just had Gabriel Cousins on a few days ago and for the third time, and what an incredible human being he is. And, we were just talking about so many different elements. One of the things I want to bring up that just came to my mind is I've been talking about this a lot, is this concept of subtle death habits. And it's something that's built into the human condition, or it's conditioned into the human psyche through the world we live in, through pharmaceuticals, through the political system, through our food supply, et cetera, et cetera. It's basically this disempowerment program that causes people to habitually self-sabotage themselves. And when I think of subtle death habits, I'm thinking of habits that degrade the human expression, that degrade the spirit from fully expressing itself in the physical body. So whether that's smoking, that's alcohol, that's lack of exercise, or avoiding the habits that we know would empower us, but somehow just avoiding them and just turning a blind eye to them and saying, oh, well, I just want to live. This is the thing that people say. This is one of the things I wanted to bring up, is this idea of people when they say, well, don't you just want to live a little? Don't you just want to have that cheesecake? Don't you just want to have that soda, that drink? Just live a little. And it's always so ironic, and the psychology is so deeply embedded. When I hear people say that, it's like, ooh, like you don't realize by saying that and perpetuating those beliefs, you're actually doing the opposite of what you're saying. You think you're living, but you're actually getting stimulated temporarily, but you're hurting yourself long term. And I want to talk about that concept. Do you hear that a lot when people are just like, well, don't you just want to live, Steven? Why do you want to juice all the time? Why do you want to eat your rabbit food? Don't you just want to live a little?
It's so deep. Yeah, that's a great question, Ronnie. First of all, I want to thank you for that question. That's not one we get every day. And if I was on Dr. Oz, we wouldn't have that question. So thank you for that question. First of all, I honor that. And yes, that's something that we see, things like they'll point to the runner. He ran every day and then he died of a heart attack. And so like they exercised all the time and they died anyway. And look at, Dr. James Sheridan, who lived that life and he died in his late 40s. And so like, why should I bother doing all this? And everyone, that's a great mechanism in the brain of wanting to poke holes in the change we have to create. The change is so hard. And you and I know it's the information alone doesn't do it. The information alone doesn't do. When I first saw Diet for a New America when I was 24, and that was like it's like an unraveling, that thankfully the universe brings some of us, but I wish all of us, and we're working for that. And I believe we're going to get there one day. But that documentary, it's a great one. It was on PBS. It was Diet for a New America. If look it up, it's probably on YouTube. And it just showed the parallel between what we eat, heart disease, why people are going to the hospital because of all the animal food, why the environment is so devastated, why all these things, the information was there. I remember going up and telling my parents, I'm like, you're not going to believe what I just found out. All these years they were feeding me everything wrong. Everything was wrong. And they didn't want to know, though. It was like these blinders went up, this block went up, and there was no way they were going to even open up their minds to see what it is that I had just learn what it is that I just learned. That barrier has remained, for the whole rest of my life. That barrier, like I told you, right now there's a little opening. We're going to Florida and we're going to bring a juicer. We're bringing Dr. Joel Furman's books on how to reverse heart disease. because, you know, they just want to go the route of the medication. Everybody wants the easy approach, Ronnie. They want the quick fix. They want the pill that's going to do it. And the truth is, there isn't a quick fix when it comes to real health. That's just a Band-Aid. The doctors never talk about what caused it to begin with. They're not telling my dad what clogged that artery to begin with. They're telling him, we're going to thin your blood out. We're going to do that. You're going to be, and a friend reinforces it. So there's the whole social circle. There's the whole intertwined social circle, and people don't want to escape that. My wife's mom knows that the plant-based diet is the best thing for her. They also know that it's going to socially isolate them in their retirement community that they're living, and that isn't worth it to them. So there's this whole other thing to talk about the socialization, how important it is that we remain connected to people. People will die without socialization. They'll die of loneliness. And so that will keep them from going the right way and standing out and going down the road that's alone. And when I did this in my mid-20s, I mean, I was alone. I lost a lot of my friends, my meat and potato eating friends, the guys I was going to the gym with, the people in my fraternity, and they said, wow, Steve's crazy. You know, this is like, he's not a man. That was a big thing back then too. A lot of them told me I really wasn't a real man. You know, you're eating rabbit food. And so to stand out, to do this, to try it on ourselves, and I did it since then, and here I am now, and the effects, it all is worth it. It's worth everything. It's worth standing out against the grain and knowing that it's worth it for that alone, and that the right people will come to you when you connect with them. But to answer your question about the brain and how we overcome this idea that we want to resist what's good for us, that we are drawn, and there was a study that showed we are attracted to negativity. We as a culture, as humans, we like negativity. Our brains get off on it. It's why, like, a reality show following Ronnie Landis around his day-to-day, showing you how to eat more superfoods, get living food into your body, and all the other elements that make up for a healthy living. They're not going to do that reality show. They're going to do one of the Kardashians that show them arguing and bitching and bickering, because people are drawn to train wrecks. They like to see what's worse so they can feel better. Social media is set up that way. We compare ourselves, and then we fall into, and I'm not saying I've risen above all of it, because I was telling a friend the other day, like, I don't want to get into the I am lacking. You know, I am missing something. I am comparing. Why does that video have 1 million views and mine have 100,000? Why is it that they're here listening to that message and not this? And wherever we are in the work we do and the life we live and the social media world that we might be drawn into, which is really a bad influence overall, because a lot of people are addicted to it and they're sucked in, and it's a lacking and comparing culture. And that's not healthy for us either, you know? And so it's all those things, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I had just had Jason Robel on about a week ago, and we were talking about this very thing. And he actually shared his past experience with clinical depression, and how social media and the career pursuit and comparing himself to completely outrageous kind of almost fantasies. And I say that because I had also done that myself and come back to reality of like, wait a minute, why am I comparing myself to some person showing me a snapshot of their life on social media and all this different stuff? And it really, you know, it was really a powerful conversation, because I realized how deep this subtle depression is in the social media world, and the addiction of you know, just this it's the dopamine effect, right? The pleasure and reward cycle. And I just think that that's such a great point that you brought up, because that absolutely is a huge barrier to vibrant health. It's not just the food, but one of the great things I love about juicing, and one of the things I love about your manifesto, is that you said basically in order to health up, you need to wake up. And that's really the puzzle piece here, right? Because like you said, information does not solve an issue, but what you do with it can solve a particular challenge. But you got to wake up, right? You got to actually wake up to your own potential. You got to wake up to the world around you. You got to wake up to your own I guess your own shortcomings or what's not working. And one of the things you said is that a lot of people actually don't want to know the truth. They avoid the truth. They will fight tooth and nail to avoid actually looking at the truth. And so this waking up process, you know, I want to kind of almost like intertwine two themes into a question. I want to, and I don't know exactly what the question is, but basically what I want to probe at is this concept of waking up and the power of juicing.
Mm. So the question is, how does juicing apply to waking up? Or can we wake up from juicing? Or is
Yeah, that would be great.
that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And it's true, right? What is the portal in? And you said for you, juicing was the portal in. And for me, juicing was the portal in. And so I had to go back to that of all the education and books I was going to write and, you know, what role I could have. It went back, it went full circle. I was like, what was it for me? How can I reach more people? We had a vegan magazine that showed people why you should eat plant foods. I had a raw vegan radio that showed people why they should eat living foods. And that was like when podcasts first started. That was way back when you were a baby. No, I'm kidding. But it was a long time ago. And so the portal was juicing. And so we find, and we're finding it to be true, with the people that we're reaching, that when we just start, like with that juice a day, that it does a lot of things. Like I'm saying, it is the portal in. It clears away the brain fog. We start to think clearer, and we're able to see it's a matrix. We're into the matrix of something's not right. Our brain chemistry starts to change. We have a more clarity of thought, and we can evaluate bullshit from truth. Am I allowed to say that on this podcast?
That's good. So
we're able to evaluate that and see, you know, the goggles come on, the truth comes on, the truth serum. We see it like a truth serum. And then as we get deeper into that, and we're continuing the juice a day habit, and there is a difference. So even getting people into the juicing, there's still myths to overcome. There's still a lot of misinformation. Aren't blended smoothies just as good? And it's just easier to make. We're still always looking for the shortcuts. Like, isn't it better? So we have to tackle that myth. Sugar, isn't there going to be, you know, isn't going to raise my blood sugar? And there are plant-based doctors out there that are saying juicing is a travesty. Overcoming that myth and why and everything. And so we went deep into science with our book and the work we're doing, and pulled all the studies out about a juice a day habit, why they're using it in Gerson therapy, why it was used there, you know, why Max Gerson brought it here in the 30s and 40s, why Jay Kordich was able to reverse disease just from a carrot apple juice, why it's still used in cancer clinics all over Europe, not smoothies. And there's a difference. So we talk about that. We talk about the difference, why to try the juicing, compare it and see. Juicing is the real deal. It's the medicine. It's more concentrated, and it gets it into your body like nothing else, into your bloodstream, feeds you on a molecular level. Like I said, takes away the mastication and the digestion, so it's easily absorbed into your bloodstream. The smoothies are great, and we love them. We incorporate them. They take away the mastication. We're still left to digest it. We can't get as much into that blender. We'll get a whole pile of vegetables compared to just a little bit through the blender, you know, in the water and everything like that. And then there's the oxidation and doing proper juicing, and then clearing up the myths about high pressure processed juice that are in the store, you know, the HPP that's now in Costco. So everyone thinks they can juice. I'm juicing. I'm going to Costco and I'm going to get a crate of the Sujo, whatever it is, and I'm a juicer, and they're not going to get the same results. We're talking about cold pressed fresh juice. That's what clears the cobwebs. The processed stuff doesn't do it. Not even Mott's apple juice, like not the stuff you're going to find down the aisle that's pasteurized and full of sugars and everything like that. And the other misconception about even just including some apples in your juice, there's a phytonutrient in your apple that really slows down the absorption into your bloodstream. It's called fluoridin, and it's in the apple, and it really, so that's another, we bring those studies in, we tackle people with logic. And like at Expo West this weekend, we did demos all weekend with TriBest right at their booth on the main stage there, and you can see when people are hearing the truth, they're shaking their head yes. They're saying, yeah, it makes sense. And right now when people are watching, if they're saying, yeah, that makes sense, and you're right, that clears up the confusion that infomercial brought me, that you know, a blended NutriBlast is the same thing as a juice, and it isn't. And so that opens the portal. So when we start to awaken and realize we've been lied to, even when it comes to the best way to get in, then the lies start to unravel. The truth serum comes off, and it's like a matrix, Ronnie. Once you're in, you just want more of it. You start feeling better. You become happy. Like I said, we are a depressed nation. People are depressed. We start to feel happy. We don't need the medication. Start getting off our medications. We start getting thinner, and we'll use that as a way to get into, like, you can get lean we're talking to people from my generation, right? So we're talking, you want to fit into that black, slinky dress to go to the prom, not the prom, the 30-year reunion that just passed for us in high school. So we were using that as a way to get them in, a shallower way to get in. Like, let's just look good. It's so much deeper than looking good. We have so better ulterior motives than that. It's because everything else clears up. The brain clears up. We ward off disease. And then we just want to become juice gurus and spread the message too with the work that we're doing and the certifications and everything like that. And that's the mission we're on.
There's so much great things you just mentioned in that. One of the things is accessing health through vanity, right? And there's a lot of judgment. So we got to actually, one of the things that I've left behind and I'm still unpacking and getting out of my psyche completely is judgment. And this is a very important thing. Do you know Steve Adler of Sacred Chocolate?
The chocolate, yeah.
Sacred Steve Adler. He's one of those beautiful human beings. And one of the things that he said to me over the years is judgment is the only sin a child of God is capable of making. The reason I bring that up is because as health authorities or gurus or leaders, teachers, I've seen over the years that there can be a lot of judgment involved in the teachings, and it puts people off and makes people feel less than inspired to take that next step. And what I love about everything that you're sharing is it's free of judgment. It's like, hey, we actually want to help you. If you want to look good, guess what? We have something that will help you with that. But what's beautiful, what's really amazing is that as you start to look good, you'll start to feel good. And once you start to feel good, then the light bulb turns on. You start to light up like a Christmas tree, and all of a sudden you become activated. Yeah, you're going to look good. You can get the 6-pack abs or the fitness goals or the aesthetic goals that you want. But what's really important is how you feel in your body. And that's what I love about this approach, because I haven't seen anything in my life compared to a living foods diet, and especially a juicing, integration of juicing to transform somebody, the way they feel in their body. Obviously, like we know so many people in our community that have miraculous weight loss stories. I could just rattle off so many names. I'm sure you can too. People have lost hundreds and hundreds of pounds safely and sustainably. But one of the things that I hear from them when I really talk to them is how their life transformed, how their consciousness transformed through that process. And I'd love to talk about that particular point.
Oh, wow. That's another good, you're bringing them. You never know what direction Ronnie's going to go in. I'm like, what's he get into now? And it's the consciousness. I love it. And I agree with everything you said there. And yes, because I've interviewed the same people and worked with the same people and saw the amazing transformations and wondered why everyone wasn't waking up to this and instead buying into the marketing. And again, using the portal to get in, because when it comes down to it, we can't say that this is going to do everything you want for you because of marketing. Like, we're at a disadvantage almost. People are so skeptical because they've been burned so many times from the BS diets, the yo-yo diet roller coaster, we call it. Even in juicing, we see some of the leaders in juicing saying, just do a juice fast a few times a year and eat what you want, even McDonald's. And so we're up against the grain there. It's like, no, that's not true. That's not really true. And yet millions of people are following it, and yet they're still stuck and they're really unhealthy. And so consciousness, getting back to that, those were some thoughts that came up when you were talking about that, about the marketing and the portal in and using a shallow thing like weight loss and with our sneaky back door of all these other amazing things that we've got really in mind for you. But we don't want to overwhelm you. We don't want to promise you the fountain of youth, even though it's there. We don't want to make false promises. We want you to experience a little bit and then get deeper and deeper in and then be like, whoa, life, I can't believe life can be like this. And actually, I'm inspired to show my family and friends the same. There's a level of consciousness that comes with it and a deepening, like Ronnie's saying. And that's a really unexpected thing. It's a spiritual journey. And I found that, like, even during my juice cleanses and doing some more long-term juice cleanses, of how deep I was able to get with my connection to everything, to spirit, to the planet, to the animals and everything. And it was in those moments that the real rewards come, when we evolve that way. It's even hard to put it into words, but when it happens, it's almost like an enlightenment. It's completely unexpected. It was never my intention. I was never a religious person, and it was such a gift. And one, again, I found really hard to communicate, even to my wife. I was on day 30 of this juice cleanse, and it was when I got my first book deal for The Complete Idiot's Guide to Juice Fasting. And I was blogging about it, and it's kind of how that book deal came about. I was just sharing. And it's funny, we share, Ronnie, and you never know who's listening. Here I was at Expo West, people are coming up, they were inspired, and I'm wondering, like, oh, you're the one I inspired. Sometimes you feel like you're just putting it out there and let it stick to the wall wherever it's gonna land. And I'm always so touched by anyone that it's touched. And I know you are too. So it was putting that out to my wife and telling her, I had this awakening today on this 30-day juice fast. I'm blogging about it. I want to share about it. Let me explain it to you. And again, it was hard to put into words what that's like. But Ronnie's saying, and what I'm saying is, this is something that does happen as we clear the toxins out of our body, as we clear the brain fog, as we get into the right body we're meant to live in, as we start doing the right work we're meant to do for a living, that we're not a slave to society, a slave to our life. We're not in the wrong relationships. We're with people who love us. We're with people who respect the work we're doing, and that they are the oxygen with us. And if you're in those toxic relationships, please get out. Please get out. We've all been in them, and they're only going to drag you down. And then we reach another level in this journey, this ascension, this escape from the matrix, where we become more spiritual. We become more connected. People get into it all different ways. I was talking to Dr. Will Tuttle last week, author of the World Peace Diet. And for him, it was spirituality. He was a Zen Buddhist monk, in a monastery, practicing, meditating hours and hours and hours a day, all they do, and had the epiphany. Dr. Gabriel Cousins, meditating, had the epiphany. A spiritual journey brought him there. It's different for all of us what brings us there. For me, it was health and a bit of vanity and not wanting to be fat, and for Ronnie, it was a combination of things, and he'll share that in a minute. But it's amazing that, all the paths that we come to this, they all come together. We all experience the same benefits. There's no judgment. It's love, and we all know love is the message. And there can be competition, like Ronnie's saying, this is the way. And a lot of gurus get on that pedestal. It's a bad thing. It's a bad thing to be admired almost. It's like when you start gathering a tribe around you of people that love and respect you, there's a funny thing that happens to the human ego. And we start to think, wow, people really, I have it dialed in. I have all the answers. That is something we never want to do. We call ourselves juice guru. I don't consider myself a guru. Like Ronnie said, when he read our manifesto, you are the guru. We empower you with the right information. It's within. Leaders, people like Ronnie and me and the others that we're talking about here have the experience, work with thousands of people. There's lessons to be learned. When it comes down to it, it's the intuition that leads us there, that makes us realize I want to either lose weight, I want more energy. And people my age, Ronnie, they're getting on Viagra. They're living on Viagra. My friends are doing that to have an intimate relationship. And I can't believe it. I'm like, no way. I can't ever see that happening. There's no way. I don't worry about that, and maybe that brings them in. It's always a little bit of a shallow thing like that. Or like our other friends, maybe it was spirituality. Maybe it was an environmentalist that realized, wow, if I'm eating this way, that can't be good for the planet. So maybe that's bringing them into it. And then these other gifts come. The answer is the other gifts come. Stay the path. All too many times I've seen people try it like a fad. I'm going to eat raw food for a little bit and lose some weight. And then now I'm going to get drawn into the next one, like this fad that's telling me to eat more meat, or go the paleo route, or put butter in my coffee, or bacon and coconut oil. And that's the big thing now when you go into Whole Foods. That's the thing prevailing at Natural Products West. This message that's totally wrong. We base our information over decades of studies, the China study, decades of information that's at your fingertips, not biohacking, not I tried this on me and it works, so it'll work on you. Biohacking is BS too. So our mission is say no to the fads, the BS, try it for yourself, and the answer is there. It's not a religion. It's not a cult. It works. It's amazing. And this is the real game changer. You just got to stay the path. Don't jump to the next trend. There's millions of dollars that go into that marketing, Ronnie. I saw it at Expo West this past weekend. Millions of dollars. It's coming from those big corporations that are controlling the world. They get it. They're like, wow, there's a lot of money to be made in natural health. We've got to plant some seeds that this study said this. And you look at the source of a study, look at, Plant Pure Nation documentary. It's on Netflix now. Look at where the source of the study came from. It's from Atkins. They funded the study. It's horrible. We've got to unravel the damage that's done. Will Tuttle calls it cultural conditioning. It came from an early age when we're only 5 years old, sitting in kindergarten with the 4 food groups that was sponsored by the meat and dairy industry. What did we know? What did our parents know? What did our grandparents know? It's a different world now. The food wasn't genetically modified back then. The slaughterhouses weren't what they were, where they weren't eating fear. We've got a lot of damage to undo, but once you start doing it, and here's the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't want to be bleak. And I don't want to paint a negative picture. I want to say the positive answer is a juice a day on an empty stomach. I don't care what your diet is. My friends with the standard American diet, Eric, if you're out there, I know you're eating your meat and cheese and you told me you can't get over that cheese addiction. That's fine. You're starting with a juice a day. Other things are going to happen. You might gravitate towards more plant foods and you might think, socially, what's that going to mean? And let me bring that up to you, Ronnie. So socially, I asked a couple of questions of you in there. But I forget what the first one was, but I said, we'll hear from Ronnie on that one. But socially, what does it mean to you? And what did it mean to you to walk a different path, knowing that some of your friends are going to think you're crazy?
Great question. The first thing that you brought up was just kind of how we all get into this, right? And for me, it was because I had a knee injury when I was 18 years old. I had my first knee surgery, and I was heavily involved in martial arts and basketball and was paralleling professional careers. And so I had a bit of an identity crisis that forced me into changing my lifestyle to maintain my identity as an athlete, actually. Because I was like, I cannot lose this. This is everything. I have got to figure this out. And I started looking at my diet and started changing and healing my knees. And then, a longer story, but then that's how I got into the spiritual aspect, because I do believe that the plants, the diva of the plant, the spirit of the plant, has a consciousness within it, and the juice is the spirit.
Oh, I love that.
Alchemical terms, the juice is the blood. That is where the spirit comes through. And so that levity and that lightness and that kind of a luminosity that we feel, that alkalizing effect in the brain, I just felt my aura just expand. And that's actually how I got deeper into spirituality, but it wasn't by intention. It was by the intention of the higher intelligence, obviously, to get me to drink my first damn juice.
It makes sense when you think about the chlorophyll, right? The hemoglobin and the chlorophyll of the plant is the same, almost the same molecular structure. Right. And so what Ronnie's talking about here, the plant life, I don't know if you can see the plant. The plant life, the plant consciousness, I love that. I've never really thought about it that way, but it makes complete sense. It's beautiful, really.
Yeah. And so as far as social settings, I've looked back on my life recently because I've lived quite an intense life, and I've traveled so many different circles, from my martial arts upbringing to basketball training and to all the different circles of conscious communities and food communities that I've traveled through. And I realized wow, I've traveled so many different circles and communities, and it's hard for me to stay still. And I realized that this journey actually has caused me to meet and interact with more people in the world that I would never know, that would never know me if I stayed right where I was at in my comfort zone in the martial arts world. That would have been my life. That would have been all that I knew, or people knew me. But because I took this journey and I had no idea where it would lead me, I've traveled all over the world. And, one thing comes up for me as an answer to that question. My friend Tara Ann, who's a raw food enthusiast in Hawaii, she said something to me that was very interesting. When I first went over to Hawaii to live on this permaculture farm with 70 cacao trees, and I first got introduced to what a real permaculture farm looks like. She said something interesting to me about the raw food journey. She said that when you get into raw food, everything in your life will change. The people that you associate will change. The place that you live will probably change. You'll probably end up moving somewhere. Your vocation will most likely change. And she started going down this list. And I started looking at my life, and I looked at every single person I'd ever met on this path. And I realized, whoa, wait a minute, that's actually pretty accurate, almost 100% for every single person I've ever met on this journey. And I just realized it's taken me on an adventure. It's taken me on my own hero's journey. And I guess, so in that sense, that's just what I kind of want to relay in a response to that. Is I've been able to meet more people in the world that inspire me, that light me up, that are inspired by me than I could have ever done by, staying in my little comfort zone.
Yeah, and I say to my in-laws, this is if you're watching, maybe my mother-in-law is watching. I'm hoping she is. She'll probably watch the replay. And I say, they can be the spark that inspires the revolution right in their own community. You know what I mean? What are they doing different? So it doesn't matter where you are in life, where you are on the journey, right? No matter what age you are. And that's another thing we'll hear too. I'm too old, at this point, and that's just not true. There's so many lessons, so much to be learned. I'm excited to see where my dad's going to go with this, and I want to document his journey. I want to kind of use, the power of the work we do. I said, Dad, I'm going to kind of guilt him into it. I'm like, if you don't do this, it's going to be good for my business, right? Because if you don't do this, then, I'm not going to have, a great story to tell. And we know where the story is going to go if he can stick with me. If he can we teach the old dog new tricks? And I'm telling you, Ronnie, my dad was someone, he wouldn't even go to a restaurant that had just vegan or vegetarian food. Like, he got mad at me for that. He is just a meat every meal kind of guy. When my wife and I got married, he was dreading the wedding because he knew he wouldn't be able to eat meat and just couldn't wait to get to the steakhouse after. And it's the kind of guy he is. And he's not overweight. He's a thin guy, so it's misleading. And I interviewed Dr. Vish the other day. And the warnings were coming that this was going to happen, because he was saying on that interview, he was like, even if you're thin and eating this cholesterol diet, these animal products, it's going to fatten up around your organs and you're not going to know. So it's almost even worse to be someone like that. And I immediately thought of my dad. I got on the phone with my parents. I said, Mom, Dad, listen to what happened to my mother-in-law. She's off they said she had the best blood work ever. And that's never been. And there were all these barriers. My mom was like, well, your dad and I are healthy and we don't need to juice. And then this happened like a lightning rod from the sky, And so, Ronnie, why did I know coming up to say that to them? Why is our intuition what it is? Because of the way we live and the consciousness that you're saying. And it's because we flood our body like this. It's because this food, what we eat, and the media, what we consume through our eyes and put in front of us, that we're very careful what we're surrounding ourselves with, from our relationships to social media to movies and TV to everything. Everything's consumption, whether it's through our mouth, through our eyes, through our ears, and the music we listen to. Everything matters. Everything counts. That was a message I got during one of my journeys through consciousness and ayahuasca. And it told me everything counts. Everything counts. Everything you think counts. And that scared me, because I was like, whoa, because I haven't always had the best thoughts and I haven't always done the right things. And so from that moment on, from, drinking the ayahuasca, the blood of the plants, and really getting deep with my own journey. And I know David Wolf has done the same work. He was the one who actually, inspired me to try that path out, which I did a few times. And it really showed me, oh, wow, there's a reason they're using ayahuasca in the Brazilian rainforest, and it's part of their culture. From when a baby is born, they put ayahuasca on the tongue, because that was a portal to consciousness. That was a real plant medicine, right from the plant, soul to body. Thank God I did that. It's all a journey. I don't have it all figured out, Ronnie. I can say, like you, I've had the luck to surround myself with the most amazing people in the world, doctors, people that are living the life, interview them, go through a college unlike anyone else because of the people we've been able to interview and work with and just get the right download. We couldn't get a degree for what we know. So I honor you and the work that we're doing, because we've got to distill this to other people, break it down to a level that they can understand, get them in and let them know everything does count. Everything we do, everything we think. And it can't be tomorrow. It can't be, I'm going to smoke a cigarette today and I'll get off it tomorrow. And there's always this other weird thing that I want to bring up with you. Why is it that there's this it won't happen to me kind of thing going on? Even though that person got lung cancer, I'm still going to smoke. It won't happen to me. I've been lucky so far. My friend Veronica was telling me this. And if you're watching, Veronica, I'm sorry, but you were telling me this last night. You said, my dad is, he's 77. He's like your dad, and he's got a clean bill of health. He's on cholesterol medicine. He's drinking wine once a night, and he's having olive oil on his salad and eats whatever he wants. So, like, you're saying things like that to me, Veronica, and you're smoking too, and you want to get off it, and you think that maybe that it's not going to happen to you. What is this "it won't happen to me" kind of thing going on? Because that's happening too, isn't it?
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's really self-deception, right? To be straightforward about it. It's how we deceive ourselves to avoid looking at the truth, because the truth is uncomfortable and it brings up uncertainty. And the strongest human need is to have certainty in their life, and they will actually avoid the truth. I've seen this phenomena where people will literally avoid and resist the thing that will heal them. It's like it's being shown to you. It's just being brought to you over and over and over. And people will literally resist their own healing until they have no choice, until they either are on a stretcher, they're in a situation, they had a heart attack, they're having a diabetic amputation, they're having some kind of thing happen that is forcing them to pay attention. And even in that place, I've seen where people just decide to check out. They're in so much pain inside of themselves that they just decide to check out. They don't even want to be here anymore. And then it's the rare people that get that message, and then they wake up and they're like, you know what? Okay, I've been lying to myself. I've been using these little memes like, oh, it won't happen to me, and just avoiding what the universe or life is showing me every single moment. And then those people become the greatest testimonials, because they've actually they've decided to be honest with themselves. And this is something I want to just piggyback on this, because I think this is such an important thing to kind of point out, is that if somebody is not able to be honest with themselves, how can I expect them to be truly, authentically honest with me? And this is a big thing. This is a little bit of a different slant, but it's a very big thing that I've been looking at, because essentially what I feel like you brought up is, why do we have such a challenge with self-honesty, and how does that translate into our lack of honesty with other people?
Wow, that's a great one too. And when you were, kind of putting that all together, I was thinking, that's my dad, right? Because he was, he was shocked. He was shocked that this happened. He was shocked that his arteries were clogged, and just the other day, like I said, my mom said, we're healthy, Steven. We don't need juice. And even though, and now it comes out, well, your dad was having some chest pains. It was hard for him to go to sleep. But now he's okay. They got him on the medication. His blood pressure is actually down now. So he actually wasn't healthy. He actually was in that state of denial. He was lying to himself. My mom is lying to herself when she says the medicine's going to do it, and she doesn't want to make the habit. Back then, and when I said it that day, it was, Steven, you know what it is? I'm lazy. I'll tell you the truth. I'm lazy. I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. I said, well, Mom, it only takes 10 minutes to clean the juicer. We're going to show you how only 10 minutes to clean. Well, then we have to shop. We have to have. That was it. It was the laziness. And it's still kind of there. It's still kind of, well, the medication, there's still, like I said, there's a portal, but the lying is still going on. And it's devastating for my mom to believe that she was feeding my dad food that even caused this. And it's devastating to my mom to believe that she fed, me and my sister food that was causing it for us, that I had to reverse. And that, there's a reason I have so many dental issues, that I lived on sugar as a kid. And I went in the cabinet and took the chocolate frosting for the cakes and ate it whole from the thing. And I didn't think that was going to make my teeth rot out. They didn't rot out, but I don't have the best teeth. And there's a reason for that. I lived on sugar. I didn't know any better. Our parents don't want to know that they were wrong. They don't want to know. No one wants to be made wrong, right? So it starts there. Nobody wants to be wrong. Nobody wants to be told what to do. We only open our ears when we're ready to hear, because we're also proud in a way that we don't want to be told what to do. We didn't in school and we don't now. My parents certainly don't want to be told what to do by the kid who, like Ronnie says, knew them since I was like that. How can I possibly know? My sister, who's, a year and a half older, she's 50. I'm approaching 50. I'm still the little brother, I still wouldn't know what to do when it comes down to it. So there's that, the opening of the portal. And then coming back to your question, if you can repeat it.
Yeah, I don't even, to be honest, I don't even remember exactly the question. It was just a stream of consciousness. But I think what the point that you brought up was absolutely essential. I think what we're talking about is the vulnerability to actually be honest.
Oh, that was it. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of was in there, but I didn't actually directly tackle it because I wanted to talk about my dad and because it's hitting me so hard now. I'm still recovering from it. We're at Expo West. This is the irony, or if you want to call it synchronicity, which I prefer. Me and my wife are doing a demo at Expo West. We have a crowd of people, and we're making a heart-healthy juice, and I'm talking about reversing heart disease as my dad is having a heart attack in the hospital. Like, what is that? And then I get off that demo, and I get that message from my mom on her phone that your dad, I got on the phone with her, and she told me the news, and I burst into tears because it's a shock, even though we know. So it was a shock to me. Was I lying to myself that my dad was healthy on the inside? Why was it a shock to me? Why wasn't I prepared for it? I mean, we could say a lot of things about that. Of course, it's our dad and we're devastated. Why does it still come as a shock to us? Why do we still lie to ourselves? We lie to ourselves, right? So we lie to ourselves. So I'm lying to myself too. Am I lying to myself that my dad's going to change now? I don't know. I mean, I'm going to do what I can by buying them a juicer, getting them some books, going out there, showing them some documentaries, showing them how easy it is, working with my mom, showing them you can go through Amazon Fresh and have produce delivered, a couple times a week. So you have the produce on your doorstep. You don't have to go out. It's easier than ever to make it a habit. What's going to happen? I have my friend Veronica saying your parents will never do it. They just do real quick meals. Your mom does frozen food. They're not going to do it. My mother-in-law is saying they're not going to do it. My wife and I are saying we're going to try. And, and my wife is saying, when we go out there and you look at your dad in the eye, you look at your mom in the eye, and you say to them, I love you. I want you to live. And this is the way. And I want to show you how, because I'm not going to sit here and watch you die. What is that going to mean to them?
That's so powerful. Even though the world is telling you one thing, you're listening to your heart and your greater knowing. You're saying, you know what? At least we're going to try. We're not going to be fatalistic. We're not going to give up. I'm going to try, because I think what you, me, and so many people feel is that if we don't at least try, then how are we going to feel about ourselves? At the end of the day, as health advocates, what good does it do to have this knowledge but not try and not use it with the people that we love? As long as we made the effort, we can't be responsible for people doing or not doing. But if we don't try at all, then it's kind of missing the mark. So
But then again, how does it feel to overcome an ingrained thing in our culture of being the child going to parent and telling them what to do, telling them that what they did was wrong? And then when you talk about lying to yourself, then my mom has to admit to herself that she wasn't preparing her husband, the man she loves the most and wants to live, the wrong foods. That's a hard thing for her to overcome. For my dad, he has to overcome the line that he hates the taste of it. He hates it. Like, he has it conditioned. I was talking to his brothers and sisters. They were like, just make him a juice, but don't tell him what's in it. He's almost like a child like that. Like, he doesn't want a vegetable. I don't want a vegetable. That's what I'm up against. I don't want it. And so I'm going to them as this kid that's doing this work that they sometimes hear and like some of the things I do, but don't want the real message. How am I going to go to them and help them to overcome the lies to themselves to open the love to me and accept me as a mentor in a way in this one little area that, of course, you're my parents and you're very wise and sage and you've brought me into the world and you've shown me so much and you've made me the man I am today. I wouldn't have the morals and values I without them. And what a gift and the support on the journey to let me live a life I want and even support me financially at my worst times in life, all the things that my parents have done for me. How do I become the one to be the one to help my dad actually live another 20, 30 years, which can happen if he makes this crucial change that he's really resistant about? Because I'll tell you right now, they just want that pill. They want to keep lying. They want the quick meals. It's a big shift. And we're creatures of habits and we get stuck on a record player. And what's it take to move the needle ahead? What does it take to uncrease the book? Right? The book is creased. We keep opening to the same page. How do we uncrease it and open and create a new chapter for ourselves? And the older we get, the more solidified our brain gets. And we are creatures of habits. And here my parents are in their 70s. And for them to undo all the conditioning and habits, and they worked for big pharma by selling drugs in a pharmacy and always gave me drugs, even to this day. It's like, did you take Motrin? Did you try this? It's like it never ends, so there's a lot to overcome. And then they've got the cardiologist. They've got the cardiologist telling them to do this. We've got the friends telling them, well, this friend of yours had the same thing you had, Mel. He had 100% clogged artery, 2 stents, and he was on a golf course a week later. So they're hearing, you just take the meds and you're going to be fine. And I know that's the route they're going to want to take, Ronnie, because it's the easy pill to swallow. We don't want to change. We're set in our ways. But they don't know what you and I know and so many others, that the gifts are there when you do it. When you go against the grain, put this into your body, your taste buds change. It tastes amazing. Everything clears up. You live a life, and it's every day. It's every day. It's not living to 120 years old. It's the quality of life, not the quantity. Yes, Dr. James Sheridan died young. Yes, Jay Kordich, the juice man, my partner, died at 93 last year. His celebration of life is April 7th at Agape Spiritual Center. So drop an email to support@juiceguru.com and we'll get you on the list if you want to go. Linda wants to get the word out about that. It's a celebration of life, 11 a.m., April 7th, to celebrate the life of the juice man. He died at 93. It's not about, when we hit the finish line. It's about the quality of life. And I'll tell you, Dr. James Sheridan, in those days, he lived them to the fullest. He would have no regrets for educating people in the work he did. It's not always when we leave. It's while we're here. Every minute counts. When you can make it count, time slows down, life becomes beautiful, and we can escape the negativity. I'm not saying we don't still get sucked into it. Like bringing back that study, we are negative people, and sometimes we get off on it. We enjoy it. Like, oh, let's just gossip and let's be negative together. And it's kind of the way we can even bond, which is weird. Even around and all over America, people do that around the water fountain all the time, over the latest show and whatever it was, TV show and whatever it was. So it's an awakening all along, and and I'd like to follow up with you on what happens with my parents, because this is going to be, for me, the true test. Am I really a health educator? Can I inspire the ones that brought me into the world? Can I? And I want to find out. I'm excited to find out. I feel like calling James and saying, James, let's do a documentary on this. Mm-hmm. And then my dad's accountable, though, by the way, right? I'm like, Dad, if you want my business to do well, you've got to do this, Mm-hmm. I could guilt him in that way.
Yeah, whatever works. And I really appreciate you sharing with such vulnerability and authenticity about what's going on in your life and your journey with your parents, because I think it's something that all of us can relate to, and I think it's why so many of us got into this work in the first place, because we didn't typically come from Buddhist backgrounds or certain philosophies or, an organic upbringing. We all came from a nutritional holocaust for the most part, and we were just trying to figure this thing out. And, the generations that came before us definitely did not have it figured out, and they had a conditioned response. And we fortunately survived through the whole thing to make it this far, to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we're trying to do the best we can to shine that light for the world. And I just greatly appreciate you showing up here 100% as you are and sharing your journey, sharing your inspiration and your passion for getting people to drink at least one juice a day. And with that, where can people find out more about your programs, your information, your podcast? Do you have any upcoming programs that you can tell people about?
Oh yeah, that would be great. And thank you for having me on the show, Ronnie. This was, and everything happens for a reason. I was going to be on, a couple of weeks ago, and I'm thankful that it worked as it did, because our interview would have been completely different. It couldn't have been as raw and where we are now, and what it's almost. I'm just happy it happened that way. I'll just say it that way. But you can find out what we're doing at juiceguru.com. That has links to our radio show and all the work we're doing. We've got lots of shows up there already with a lot of the leaders in the health industry. We just did Dr. Joel Furman and Dr. Gabriel Cousins. We got the Juice Man, some interviews with him and Jason Bale, and people in juicing and people in healthy living and spirituality, growth, all the fun things. You can find out at juiceguru.com, and there's a link for Juice Guru Radio there. The podcast is there, and you can get a free template recipe. It's really the only thing you need to start juicing. We were giving these out at Expo West. It's the most downloaded thing we have on our website. It's a tape to your fridge poster based on the juice a day template recipe, the Juice Guru template recipe. With this one recipe, you can make literally hundreds of juices. It's going to make you into your own Juice Guru. And it's an alkaline juice. It'll reduce inflammation. Like, we didn't even go into the real benefits of juicing, but it's all there for you and all the information you need. So you can download that at juiceguru.com. You'll see a link on that page right when you land on the page on get our template recipe. Just put your name and email, and you'll get that in your inbox. Just print it out and put it on your refrigerator, like lots of people all over the world are doing. And that's the way to get started on the Juice a Day revolution.
Yeah,
revolution.
Yeah, what an incredible revolution and movement it is. Thank you so much for being a part of leading it and being on here with me, making the time to share your wisdom and your passion. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor.
Thank you, Ronnie. See the same in you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I want a copy so I can put this up on Juice Guru Radio.